Hi, good morning, and thank you for coming so early and being such a chirpy, happy audience. So it's the last day of the Bazaar and the last day of Knowledge series this year. This year that has thrown up some wonderful films, unique in narratives and style, and happy at the box office as well, which is really great for the ecosystem to have unique new voices getting sampled and then savored by the audience, which just goes on to prove that what the indie space has always been saying is true, that if you put out these films on the shelf, people will experiment with their choices, get adventurous with their buds, and watch them. Maybe like them too. So going forward, here's a quick look at the agenda for the day. At 11:30, we have the horror platter. That's another director's jam with Patrick Graham, the director of Ghoul. We have Raj and DK, the directors of Stree. We have Pankaj Kumar, the cinematographer from Tumbad. And moderating that panel will be Bhaskar Hazarika, the director of Kotanodi. At 12:30, we have animation, not just child's play. It's a conversation between Gitanjali Rao, Soumitra Ranade, and Miriam Joseph. At 1:30, it's the producer's jam. I mean, you cannot have a series of director's jams and not listen to the producers who make those contents happen. So the focus being the producer's world, a science of choices. It's a jam between Anshulika Dubey from Wishberry, Catherine Dussart, Deborah Sate. Nyay Bhushan will moderate that panel. At 2:45, it's content security time in the digital space with Satya Raghavan, the head of content operations at YouTube India, and speaking to him would be Miriam Joseph. At 3:45, talent management and world best practices. We have the Times Talent business head, Rani Mall. We have founder and managing partner of Matter Advisors, Caleb Franklin, and speaking to them would be Ollie Revit, the founder of the Film Collaborative. At 4:45 is Facebook and Instagram time. They're going to give you some tips of the trade. Devakar Chandani, the cluster reader and strategic partner at Facebook. At 5:30, the dark, the pulpy, and the love story with Sriram Raghavan and Sumen Mishra. And now, back to the opening session for the day. It's a legacy session with the original upstarts, if I might say so, or the bad boys, who thought unique, broke norms, and crafted engaging takes of human tales of love, loss, valor, amour, sacrifice. Eventually turned producers as well, and eventually went on to be entrepreneurs, first producing their own content, and then later mentoring and producing the next generation of unique voices, so that film could go on and grow on. Storytellers first, directors and producers who changed the game. We have with us some of the masters. Ramesh Sippy, sir, may I please invite you up? Vishal Bhardwaj, sir, please. And Abhishek Chaubey. And speaking to them would be Minty Tejpal.
Hello, can you hear me? Thank you, Anupama. Sorry for the delay, and thank you, Film Bazaar and NFDC for inviting me for this incredible session. I have genuine talent sitting on stage from Ramesh Sippy, sir, a legend of our cinema with movies from Sholay and Shan and right down to Bunyad. On the other end, standing at 6'1", Abhishek Chaubey, who's worked closely with Vishalji, with Ishqiya, and Dedh Ishqiya, and of course, Urta Punjab. And in the middle, the disruptor, the original disruptor for Indian cinema, with whom I've had the pleasure of working with. I co-wrote The Blue Umbrella with Vishalji and Abhishek. I must share that with you. He's the original disruptor, a composer, musician, lyricist, director, producer. So Vishalji, I'll start with you, being the middleman. And in India, we start with the middleman always. So the big question for today, sir.
The most important person in India.
Person. So you're in the middle, sir. So Rameshji is, I don't trust Wikipedia people. I Googled Rameshji, it says 1947 birth. No. Rameshji told me over breakfast he's born in 1944. So he's older than in our industry, you know. Amazing. But Vishalji, right in the 60s, born in the 60s, the disruptor of Indian cinema, right from Makdi onwards, sir. And I've seen your work, but I would like you to share. Has content finally arrived, Vishalji? With Budhaiyu and Thugs of Hindustan, is this a climactic year for Indian cinema?
Yeah, I think we are arriving towards the climax because when I remember when I made Maqbool, it was so difficult to raise money for Maqbool. It was so difficult to release Makdi because there were no multiplexes. And it was a big struggle to make those films. Post Maqbool, the things became easy, but now I think the fruit has ripened.
And I remember for Makdi, you've even received a rejection letter which you avoided, and then yet you pursue it. So it's been a struggle for you. And yet you've turned producer Vishalji, which I'll just come to it for a minute. Rameshji, you were ahead of your time, sir. When you look back at Bunyad, a 100-episode long series back in the 80s, riveting content.
105.
Excuse me, my pardon, sir. Wikipedia again. 105
Always
episodes.
wrong by 4 or 5.
Sir, वही चक्कर है. 4-5 की गलती हो जाती है, रमेश जी. माफी चाहता हूँ. 105 episodes of riveting content, sir. Isn't that, you were far ahead of your times, Ramesh ji. If today that was on Netflix or Amazon, it would be a success. आपका इसके बारे में क्या कहना है?
Well, it's been a very exciting journey, and I think it continues till you give up. But I have also taken on a new space as whatever I have learned and whatever I have imbibed in the years of experience, I now want to hand over to the younger generation coming up. So an academy has, I've opened an academy along with my wife and son.
Yes,
and
of course.
With Mumbai University. So that's where I am at.
But so if I were to ask you, in the 50 years you've been, doing cinema, right from 1971, during, Andaz, jaise aapne shuru kiya, it's been 50 years for you. What are the big changes you've seen, Rameshji? It's been amazing from cinema to television to the internet.
I think ever since Dada Saheb Phalke made the first film, cinema has always been changing.
Yes.
And it will continue to change. We have not reached anywhere. We are at a place, but we'll keep on changing. If we don't change, what is it about then? We have to bring change. If he's brought changes in his films, and I have brought changes in my films, and he's bringing changes, the future storytellers are going to be doing the same thing.
I agree.
If they don't break ground, if they don't break rules, they're not going to be looked at with any great respect.
I agree completely. Change is inevitable. And talking about change, Chaubey and breaking ground, Urta Punjab, firstly, Ishqiya and Dedh Ishqiya, all those years with Vishalji from Maqbool and Makdi and Blue Umbrella, lots of writing. You're an industry kid who's been there right from the beginning. And then you've tasted success with beautiful movies. But would you do a Urta Punjab again? Would you take on a controversial, topical subject, or would you stick to Candy Floss romance? How would you take it now, Chaubey?
That's the least I can do. I mean, create some controversy and bother people a little bit. That's the least I can do. And yes, the idea has always been to create content which is fresh for the audiences, to be at the frontier of content, actually, in the mainstream space. I mean, that's what I enjoy doing, to be at the frontier, to create a sort of content in the mainstream space that the audiences are not prepared to watch.
But if I may venture, Abhishek, in your films, one sees that the story, the screenplay, much like Vishalji's films, that seems to be the king, not the stars. So is that something you will take forward? Is Son Chidiya your next venture?
Yeah, that's what I intend to do. I mean that's also been part of my training, because working with Vishal has taught me that. I remember him telling me back in 2003 कि बेटा अगर director बनना है तो पहले लिखना सीखो. So it's been my training, and what I have learned through the years is also that you have to provide content that people are not prepared to watch, rather than lull people into sleeping, jolt them into waking up.
Vishalji, you've been doing a lot of that, doing content that you've always followed your own diktat over content. So what do you have to say about the new proliferation of Netflix, Amazon, etc., the whole whole ocean of possibilities that have opened out, sir. Would you be willing to go and do a web series at some point? Is there any plans?
As soon as possible, I get the material.
Wow.
Because it's such a creative freedom for a director. I mean, of course, I love cinema. I love 3-act structure. But this series offers really something unique, where you can, in films, you know what happens, even if we write the script at the editing level, you have to let go of many nuances.
Yes.
The small characters you don't concentrate on. Series gives you that liberty and that freedom. And of course, the kind of subjects, when I see Black Mirror,
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing the kind of work is happening in series. It's I think the big revolution series. There's both these digital platforms.
So the time is one of the factors. The fact that you can, instead of 90 minutes or 120 minutes, you have time to tell your story over 10 hours. Is that one facet that appeals to you, Vishalji?
I think that depends on the content, because sometimes the content demands that it should be told in how many hours. And like if you're making a short story, so it has to be done in, so it's the content. But of course, the kind of things you can do in series, and there's no censorship. I mean, the kind of censorship we have in our, of course,
Yes,
Chaubey has
yes.
gone through that. And we all go through, and the Animal Welfare Board, my God, it's a pain in the neck, if I can't say ass.
You shared a few stories.
Yeah. I mean, in the kind...
Censored.
Yeah, and the kind of things you impose on you. I mean, the film is such a soft target.
Yeah, that's
किसी को
true.
कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, film. जो भी हो film. हर जैसे समाज की हर बुराई का कारण film है.
Bilkul badhiya, sir.
Yeah.
It's always been a soft target. In fact, V.S. Naipaul many years back said India a million mutinies now. It's like India is a million scrutinies now. We are being scrutinized for everything constantly, Chaubey. It's bizarre. But Ramesh, a question for you, sir. With Netflix, Amazon, Vishalji saying he'd love to do a series there. आपको लगता है cinema hall के दिन बंद हो गए in the next 10-20 years? That big talk about a movie release, that's gone, sir?
But why should it be closed?
No, I'm asking you. I don't know, sir. I'm asking you.
No, I think it should very much be
They'll
open.
coexist, you think?
Absolutely. They will, they have, and I'm sure they'll continue to do so. But what the web series is offering is to do what you want at a time you want, within, there is no limitation to either time or
Yes.
creativity, or even as he said, there is no, well, even the censored lines are certainly far broader. At the moment, there's supposed to be
true.
no censor, but there is talk of self-censorship. I think the industry is definitely very sensitive to censorship, and although
as a-
film certification,
but as a nation we are very
clearly
touchy,
says
Ramesh ji, aren't
it is
we?
not censorship, it is film certification.
Yeah, difference there. Yes.
It's supposed to be film certification, but it never is. It still goes through the process. But I have to say one thing.
Sir.
It has gone through a lot of changes.
Yes.
Even the films that are seen on the big screen, there is a lot more liberty today than there was when we started back then. But the main thing, as always, is even this new platform that we have
Hanji.
is great for storytelling.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely
We
agree.
basically, as directors, are all storytellers. We tell the story in the nicest way, in the dirtiest way, in the naughtiest way, or in the happiest way.
At that,
Well,
can we hear one of, can we watch some of Ramesh Sippy sir's, थोड़ा सा आपका?
Please.
Storytelling, the best kind of stories. I think we've got a clip from Sholay to share with everybody.
This is timeless.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful.
It takes a whole big team of people. Please never be under the misunderstanding that it's a one-man job. It never is. Never is. Yes. A whole big team. My thanks to all of them. They've been absolutely wonderful. Some of them are not with us, but all those who are, thank you.
Wow, so that's timeless. Sholay is timeless. One can still sit and watch it. To turn to another point, a facet all of you share, you all directors who also produced films, which is not something that everybody wants to do. Vishalji, start with you. You fought through so many things to, for your first few films to direct. फिर भी आपने दूसरों की फिल्में produce की, चौबे की, and of course चौबे की and others, तलवार and many other films, sir. What made you do this? एक तरफ से आप वैसे ही आप, it was craziness trying to direct. Then you still took on the other shows, sir?
I mean, then it's because of, the emotionally, I wanted to be supportive of, because Abhishek is like a family. Then Meghna was going through a bad patch and she was not able to make a film for past 6, 7 years. So then if you have, if you have the power to help someone, it came from there. It never came to from a desire to make money or to have power as producer. It is just to help like your brother or sister. So, which I think I have done enough now.
So that's a very noble cause. I think you should stop there. But were your experiences good as a producer, as a director turned producer? And did you learn from your years of, I mean, आपको लगा कि मेरे साथ जो हुआ है वो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए आगे चल के? Were those elements, facets that went through?
समझा नहीं सवाल.
जैसे आप जब when you were starting to be a director, the producers, the way they dealt with you, were you careful कि you should not be dealing in the same way? Do's and don'ts?
Yeah, I think वो times changed क्योंकि पहले जब एक तो corporate के आने से भी बहुत बड़ा फर्क पड़ा and Ramesh ji has seen all those times, when वो individual producers जो होते थे, it was a different ball game. I remember Guldar Saab getting so upset in Hututu when his edit was changed by the producer, and the producer went to the theaters and they cut it on their own. So film is not available in the original form. So that's where, when I became director and I became also producer by default because CFSI rejected my film and I had to take over. But I think in that one film, I learned everything about...
आप मकड़ी की बात कर रहे हैं?
मकड़ी की,
Yes.
So, yeah, of course, then what... me as a director, I have never been manipulated by a producer.
So your experiences have been good?
Yeah, I didn't give any chance to the producer.
What?
Yeah, that was my whole thing because when I saw Guldar Saab going through that, so I decided that I'll never put myself in this position. So whenever I have made a film, the final cut is always mine.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Abhishek, if I throw the same question at you, 3 films old and you've already produced a beautiful film with Konkana as the director, Death and the Ganj, gorgeous film. What made you turn producer, Abhishek? Were the reasons similar with Vishalji?
Yeah, quite similar. What I learned in my experiences working with Vishal sir is that it's very important for creative people to take control of their own material. It's very important, and that's the reason we turn producer. When we turn producer, we have to be conscious about another aspect of filmmaking that we have not been conscious about so much as writers and directors.
An aspect that really matters.
But the aspect that really matters is in the sense that when you turn producer, even in the film that you are directing, you become responsible for putting your money where your mouth is. Nobody can come and tell you कि sir इसको आप इतने पैसे में करो because producer ने बोला है. You know how much money is going into your stunt sequences. You know how much money is going into your this other sequences, songs, all of that. So you control those resources.
So you've
on
done
your
the
own.
same for your next venture, Son Chidiya? Are you a co-producer?
Yes,
So has that made you control the venture better?
Definitely, because it has more. I have more access to the funds, and I have better access to the funds. So that is the reason we turned producer. But at the same time, I think there is this wonderful tradition in our industry, in Hindi film industry, which is very unique to Hindi film industry or Indian film industry, which is the Gurukul relationship. So in that sense, I mean, although we are very modern people, we don't use the word, when I talk to Vishal sir, I don't use the word guru, but that is the relationship that is there because
Yes, I agree.
he nurtured me. He saw me grow up. I started working with him when I was 23 or 24. And I worked with him till in my early 30s. And he nurtured, our relationship grew up, but he also nurtured me as a creative person and then gave me the a platform. Ki, hey, go ahead and make your film.
That's a rare relationship, yeah.
Exactly.
lovely
And
to
that's
hear.
what I intend to do. That when I have come of age now, when I have the access to funds,
mentor talent.
and I want to do the same, So I think this is a wonderful tradition of our film industry. It's unique to our film industry. It
Yes, it
doesn't
is.
happen
It's an ethos. It's
unique
a
to our
culture.
country.
Yes,
And
it's an
I
ethos.
think it's wonderful, and I think it becomes a responsibility as creative people. when
Ramesh
we
ji, you've
reach-
seen this. You've seen this Guru Shishya. Aapne dekha hoga. It's a very
Yes, of course. My father, it was possible for me to make my film because my father was there.
Correct.
So he was my, he didn't put any restrictions on me. And I know.
And you don't do the same for Rohan.
particularly
Aapne bataya. No restrictions for Rohan from your side. You were mentioning.
Sita Aur Geeta was a film which went perfectly on budget.
Wow. Wow.
One of the only films. But with Sholay, it was almost like there was no budget because it was a rough budget. But the previous film, Sita Aur Geeta, had cost 40 lakhs of rupees or something.
Okay.
हाँ तो कितना भाई खर्च कर लेंगे इस पे 1 crore का budget putting a huge budget. The damn thing went on and on and on and crossed 3 crores.
My God.
So, but my father never said a word. I have to say he did not interfere at all. He said, let him make it his way.
Wow. That's amazing to hear. That's amazing to hear. I think we are. I just
All
want
the
to message.
corporates need to learn that lesson.
Yeah. You heard it from Ramesh ji. Yeah.
You take a guy, you want to make a good film, give him that. Yes, once or twice it will go wrong. Sure, it will go wrong.
Anybody he's got scripts who needs money, can catch Ramesh ji after the session. Okay, after any questions from the audience? Sorry, we're running out of time. I've just been informed. Yes, please. Somebody can get a mic here.
Yeah, very good morning. To Ramesh sir, even today, Sholay is considered as a big cinema experience. Now, given the choice for OTT platform and big screen, now today, if you want to make Sholay, which one you will choose?
No. Sholay was a thought of its time, a product of its time. Doesn't mean that today if I want to make a web series, it has to be like Sholay. No. What is important today, what excites me today is what I will make. But I will have no limitations, like there were no limitations then. For me on Sholay, I would like to make it in a manner, if it's going to cost 10 crores for 10 episodes, it's good enough. The point is, you should get what you want, you should make it as you want it, in every aspect. Only then can you be called the man behind it. It needs to be exactly that. My friends here, of course, are not just behind it, they're all over it. They're all, he's writing and he's doing his own performing also. Yeah?
Just guest appearance in Padhaka at the end, not performing.
This
Any
is
other
not-
questions? There's a mic there. Ladies there. A mic, please.
This is about storytelling. See, in the world cinema, we have got many films with non-linear narration. That is, it will not be chronological.
Non-linear. Sir.
So, whether it will appeal to the Indian audiences. Some people have succeeded, but they say it should be straight. For example, I have translated Santali folklore into my language. So, that has clicked.
What is your question, sir?
Non-linear narration.
Does it work in India? You're asking. Yep, this is your question. Does non-linear narration work in India? Vishalji?
Yeah, I mean storytelling. If it works, it
In
works.
Kamina, you've done
yeah,
that, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
non-linear. Yeah, we have done in our cinema.
Even
non-linear.
Sholay was...
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's always
yeah.
been there. I think it's a story demand more than a technique. It's not a technique. It's really. Any other question, please?
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Rahul from
But let me say one thing on this. There are films now being made on the web. This Is Us. I don't know if...
I've seen This Is Us. Yes, sir. Fabulous series. Yes.
Now that goes back and forth.
Yeah, across 20 years. and 10 years.
It would take you half a minute, a minute. Now, which period of time am I in? These characters are exactly the same, but they are in different time and space.
In fact, it's a very
But they
challenging
have held
series,
it
Ramesh.
together.
It demands that you
But
pay attention
they
and
have held
notice.
it back together very well. At least
They
in
did. I
in
agree.
the first season, they definitely carried it very well.
I agree, yes.
And I have seen other series also that do that. It is strenuous to the viewer. There's no doubt.
Yeah, but if the storytelling craft is good, Ramesh, it grabs you and you can't let go on non-linear.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah,
there
I
should
mean,
be no
yeah.
restrictions.
The best work in the non-linear, the revolution came with Pulp Fiction.
Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction, yeah. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Rahul Ahuja from Bandolin. Especially, I mean, for new age storytellers, a financing gateway that's opened up is brand partnerships within the film, which you did with, for instance, Atlas or Adidas or Bewakoof, and everybody else has been experimenting, especially when the web series where brands are a major part of the production. Do you see that as an hindrance to the filmmaking process, or you see value in it for you to get a bigger budget or
Brands as a part of the film.
to
Good for the
produce your
film or not
films?
good, sir?
In film branding,
yeah.
yes.
Good, not good.
Not good, that should be banned.
Terrible.
Yeah, not good.
It's the worst thing.
Any questions on content? Let's on content or direction? Yes, please.
I have a question.
Yeah, whoever-
Minty?
yes,
Yeah.
please.
Good morning. So the question could be answered by any of you on the panel. The question is that when you as creative people become producers also, you have that much more control over your content. In that process, do you feel that objectivity towards your content may or may not get compromised at some level because you have that much more control, you are that much closer to your content, you're that much more attached, you're spending that much more time
Interesting
on what
question
you're
there,
doing?
sir. Left hand giving to right. Do you get compromised?
No, you need more hands who can slap you. Yeah, you need you really need friends who can disagree with you, who can be honest with you. So you need that. You can't be megalomaniac, in that. Yeah.
But you should also, I think you should also be as self-critical as possible. If you've seen it from one point of view, started out with an idea and a story. Now when you complete it as a film, you've got to be brave enough to go back to that time when it started as an idea and what you have done to it. Have you succeeded in bringing that out, or have you strayed away, or have you gone too strongly into techniques and is it lopsided towards a character, or you need to tell
Self-critical,
yourself
yes, sir.
that having friends around you who can give you a piece of advice is extremely helpful, but you should also be able to be your own best critic.
Superb.
To be able to say, no, I started with this, but I don't think I've ended with this. Let me rethink it a bit. Should have the liberty and the
Yes, sir, fully
resources to
agree.
hold.
Fully agree.
And Rajji ने तो कितनी बार फिल्म को reshoot भी किया है, देख के बनाई
राज
है।
कपूर आप बात कर रहे हैं?
Raj Kapoor Sahab. He used to do that with his films. He would show it to everyone. He would see it himself. He made the final decision. But what he did, his original thought was always there, and he tried to stick to it. You can always go wrong a couple of times in life. You don't have to be 100%
Yes, absolutely.
right.
Any other questions, please? Yes.
CPG, Sholay is a classic, and it was great to hear that it was screened at IFFI for visually impaired in audio form. So that's a great initiative. I was wondering, both of you and also Abhishek have made some classics. So is there any plan to have more of such films being screened in the audio way so that there's more accessibility for visually impaired audience?
You talk about just audio of the movies for visually impaired. So
There's the version of Sholay that's out this time. No, that's, I think, a very nice thing to do to those visually impaired people have been deprived of the full pleasure of the film, or they may have heard the soundtrack lots of times. Maybe they know the dialogues also, as a lot of people do, but to be able to understand the story as it moves along with the film, I think it's a very nice attempt to make it inclusive to them as well.
Any other questions? Yeah, this hand up.
I'd just like to ask you, the previous generation of filmmakers who are now regarded the masters, whether it is Shantaram or Gurudutt or Raj Kapoor, were not only writing, they were directing and acting. Did you feel that any of you were tempted by that, which is a terrifically difficult thing? Maybe you come across in your work, in your writing, in your cinematic vision, but what do you think as directors today is the amazing thing that you could also act and have an objective view?
Wow, that sounds like Nasreen.
There is no one way to look at it. I think if there is a director who feels he can act and also be participate in it and be able to have a sound judgment on everything, including his performance and his movie making, and like Mr. Raj Kapoor was definitely one of those people who
Devanand Saab.
And Dev Saab, yes, of course, and others, even in the West,
There have
Mr.
been many,
Chaplin.
yes. But we have somebody on
Sean
stage who doesn't
Chaplin.
act, but who does a lot of other things, yeah? Vishalji is a writer, he's a music composer,
Exactly,
he's a
here we
singer,
are.
he's a producer.
We have it right here.
And I don't think he'll get into acting. We'll
हमारी
have to wait
एक्टरों
and
वाली
see.
शक्ल भी नहीं है मतलब
Actor की शक्ल नहीं है विशालजी. Sorry, you had a follow-up?
I just think it's not about that, it's about the technique. And as directors, how difficult would it be to be objective about the self that you see in Gurudutt's work? It was more about an aesthetic choice rather than the practicality. And no director today, as far as I know, except for Nagraj Manjule, is actually acting in his own films. That's just a theoretical
Observation.
question.
Okay. Anybody else, please?
That's true, but what I mean is you should not restrict yourself to it. If it's possible to do it, even today, to say that there can be no Raj Kapoor today is not the right thing. There probably will never be a Raj Kapoor like Raj Kapoor. But certainly a man who wants to act and direct and make his film and write his film is always possible.
I've got a big, large red sign flashing time up. So last two questions, please. Yes.
A very good morning to all of you. I'm Murtaza. I'm a film journalist. My question regards to the censorship in the Indian film industry. I think Abhishek, Vishal sir, and all of you have dealt it at one point or the other. In the recent years, it got worse. But with the advent of Netflix and Amazon Prime, things started getting better as creative people, found new avenues. But again, there have been talks of, people trying to bring Netflix and these new OTT platforms under the, ages of the censorship. So as an industry, as creative people, how do you react to that?
Anybody? Vishalji, up.
I mean, what's the point of reaction? Would they listen to us?
True.
When they put the no smoking ticker on a running visual, did they hear us? Do they hear even now? They're deaf. They don't hear us. They do whatever they want. It is the only nation in this world who has no smoking, smoking kills on a running visual. Ridiculous. How ridiculous can it be? How more ridiculous it can be?
I think it's a constant battle they'll carry on. As Ramesh mentioned earlier, it's censorship and certification and all that angle. I think it's a constant. Sorry, Abhishek.
People in power in this country do not take cinema or the arts in general seriously. They don't take it seriously. They think कि हम कुछ नाचने गाने वाले भांड हैं. That's how they look at the work that we do. They do not look at cinema or even literature as cultural documents, as cultural exploration, as the voice of our times. They just look at us from the point of view of people who perform to and literally go from door to door to take money. So that's the way they look at us, and I think this government is having a very hard time driving economy and giving employment to people. They are not interested in changing cinema or changing the culture or understanding the culture of this country.
I think
they just want to control it.
Beyond
That's
the
all they
government,
want.
even us as a country, we have a lot of things to figure out, or our morality questions and the things we keep raising. But on that note, I think my time is up. I've got a red band. Okay, last question, please.
Yes. So we were talking about the Gurukul culture, we were talking about changing games and, producing and mentoring other people while we do our own work. Has it ever happened that while you have been mentoring a project as a producer, you have also been tempted to take it over as a director, although you were never intending to start off with that? Has that ever happened? Because you all have all mentored some fantastic projects.
Oh, now I wish I would have directed all of those films. Yeah.
Lovely answer. On that note, we'll end it. Thank you so much, Ramesh ji, Vishal Bhardwaj, and Abhishek.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramesh ji, Vishal sir, Abhishek, and thank you so much, Minty, for fast forwarding, yet giving all the information there, asking all the questions, and opening it to such a wonderful, vibrant audience. Thank you so much, guys.